G'day guys, welcome to another episode of the Pumped on Property Show. Now in this one, we go deep into Simon's portfolio. Over the last 5 years, Simon's gone from at uni, borrowing $500 off our dad to come up to Queensland and work with us, to accumulating 4 incredible properties, completely setting up his future with his fiancée Tay. Now, what can they expect from this ep, bro?
They can expect what I expected over the last 5 years, which is I had no idea that I was going to be able to achieve what I have over the last 4 years. And I think that's one thing we can take away from this episode is no matter where you're at today, with the right work and with the right support, you can always get to where you want to be.
So obviously 4 properties in 5 years is insane, man. Talk us through the first step. How did this even happen?
Oh man, it's definitely been a journey, right? Over the last 5 years, figuring everything out. But the first thing that comes to memory is that trip that we went on over in America back in 2016. And I remember coming back from that trip and you were like, Simon, I know you're still at university and I know you got, your job down there in Sydney, but what are your thoughts on moving up to the Sunshine Coast and coming to work with me and Crystal? And I was at the time at a bit of a crossroads in my life and I'm like, this is a perfect opportunity for me to try something new, move to a new place that was far more in alignment with my lifestyle and values. And in hindsight, it's ended up being the absolute best decision of my life. So coming up and obviously moving into the buyer's agency, Pumped on Property, getting my real estate certificate, then going on to getting my real estate license, and just diving headfirst into property investing, reading all of the different books that we had in the office library, listening to all different podcasts out there, YouTube videos, following all of the articles. First step for me was really just to figure out whether or not I wanted to be a property investor. And after finishing Rich Dad Poor Dad, I knew that this was for me.
So you've read Rich Dad Poor Dad and about, honestly, 20 other books that year. It was a big year of growth.
Yeah.
And you've slowly started to go from, okay, this looks like a job, to I actually really enjoy helping people as well as investing. What was that transition point when you're like, okay, I'm all in and I'm going to give this a crack?
It happened really quickly for me. As soon as I kind of came up and I saw what you were doing with your portfolio and what Crystal was doing with her portfolio, I knew immediately that, I wanted to do it. And the first part was like a little bit of a competition because I know you bought your property at 24 and I was 24 at the time and I was trying to get it done but couldn't. But then I knew my sister bought her first property at 25 and I was like, okay, cool. I just need to try and get Crystal because we're super competitive, within the family. And I just got stuck straight into it. So first things first was starting to save up the money. So I came back from that America trip with debt, came up, literally had to borrow like $500 off dad to drive up to pay for petrol. That's how broke I was, just living that true university lifestyle. But got that sorted immediately, got my finances in order, set my budgets and started chipping away at building up that initial deposit. Then went and met with a mortgage broker and said, okay, well, how much money do I need to purchase a property for $400,000? Because after talking with yourself and Crystal and developing the strategy, my first property was going to be around that $400,000 mark, which was going to, at the time, enable me to get into a nice quality investment grade property in the northeast beaches of Brisbane. The whole strategy for that first one was that whole buy the worst house on the best street. And we ended up actually getting to that point and got a really awesome property. And then a couple of years later, you bought the neighboring property a couple of doors down as well, which is pretty cool that we both are trying to monopolize that street. It was just that sacrifice, just going, I'm going to live off a small amount of money every single week. So it ended up being about 60 to 70% of my income at the time went to savings. I wasn't, enjoying my life as much as I would have liked to at the time, but I knew I had a goal in mind that I wanted to buy my first investment property at 25. And that was far more important than, some of those nicer things that you get to do with your mates.
I love that, bro. What I love about it is, as you said, starting from absolute scratch and then watching you go through that. And I remember when you got to that same point that I did where you had about $20,000 in the bank and You're like, dude, I really feel like getting into mountain biking again. I wouldn't mind getting a new surfboard. And it's like, it's just at that sticky point where it's like, once you get over 20K, it builds momentum. But before it, it's like, I could just go to Europe for another year, or I could go to Bali for 6 months, or I could, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
And I watched you transition through that. And then once you hit that hurdle, the momentum continued and you really started to go all in. And we found that epic first place down there on the beaches of North Brizzy.
Yeah, it was, real twisting within myself to be in that financial position, because I'd never really seen myself in that financial position at the time. And, from there, after I purchased that first one, that was when I found a little bit more confidence within myself. And the ends justified the means at that point. So, I then decided, okay, well, I want to expand this portfolio. I'd been doing a lot of research to that point, and I'd started to read The Secret Life of Real Estate and Banking, and started to read books like The Power in the Land by Fred Harrison, and started to understand these cycles. And at the time, between 2018 and 2020, there was a fair bit of negative sentiment around the property market and the Australian economy. But after learning more about those longer term, bigger cycles, I actually found the confidence to decide to take more risk, get myself into more debt, and accumulate a second property. So after I secured that first one, I maintained the exact same savings habit. So I continued to save the majority of my income. I actually saved 100% of my income after that. And what I did is I actually lived off the rental income from that first investment property. So it was rented out for a small amount of money that paid for my living expenses. Even then, I was able to actually go on a little bit of a holiday as well. And then essentially enabled me to, within 12 months after purchasing that first one, I'd build up another I think it was about a 8 to 9% deposit. So these properties I was leveraging as much as I legally or possibly could, because I knew that I needed to get into the market, and getting into the market at the time was more important. So I could justify paying the LMI. I could justify having the higher debt position and the bigger LVRs, because at the time I was living at home with mum. My living expenses were extremely low. Obviously no dependents, not too much going on in my life. So all of these different aspects of my life kind of gave me the motivation to push forward and take on that risk and take on all of that debt. And fortunately for me, it's like really paid off over the last few years now.
I love that, man, because what I saw is, like, when you originally came in, you're like, okay, if I could buy 2 properties in the next few years, over 15 years, own them outright, I'd be stoked. And then all of a sudden you were saving and you'd bought number 3, and I'm like, all right, this is getting real.
Yeah.
So what was that transition point? Because most investors in Australia really over a lifetime only get to 1 or 2 investments. What was it about your vision for your own future in terms of, okay, I'm going to continue on this journey and go further?
Yeah, well, I think it's similar to a lot of clients that we've worked with over the last couple of years. Now, myself and my partner were planning a trip to go overseas to go traveling. We're going to do a big 3 to 6 month trip, and all of a sudden, April 2020 hits, borders are shut, you're locked down in your home, and
that's right.
We just started working. I just started working. I'm like, cool, this is the only thing that we can do right now, and I'm just like, let's go through it. And we were obviously working super hard at the time because there was a lot of uncertainty around. We were trying to capitalize on the market conditions and help as many people as we possibly could. And that was a really great experience. But because me and my partner had a lot of money saved up for this holiday, my partner Tay had worked her ass off since she was about 14, working as a dance teacher, going through working as an event manager, working at Virgin as a flight attendant, then coming to Pumps. She had just worked extremely hard for that decade from 14 to 24. So we had a lot of savings, and we're like, well, we're not traveling. We know that this is the mid-cycle slowdown that Phil Anderson talks about, where he was saying that the stock market's going to correct, house prices should remain relatively stable. And then he was saying that after this mid-cycle slowdown, we're expected to come into one of the largest real estate booms in history. And from all this stuff that I've been listening to and reading about Phil, I kind of trusted the guy. So we decided to, once again, take another leap of faith and purchase our own home, our principal place of residence up here on the Sunshine Coast. same sort of strategy as the first two properties. Buy the worst house on the best street. So it was an old investment property that had been rented out for like 25 years, hadn't been maintained well, looked horrible, but it was on a big 990 square meter block in this tiny little cul-de-sac, surrounded by a good number of neighbors, close by the best school in the area, close by shops, close by the beach, close by cafes and restaurants and everything like that. So it wasn't just our home, it was also the intention to turn that into an investment property longer term. But the circumstance of not going overseas, of having more money in our bank accounts than we anticipated, and with that additional serviceability by being able to couple both of our incomes together at that point in time, we took the leap of faith and got that property. And now we've, spent about $100,000 renovating the place, and it's kind of turned into almost a dream home, which is pretty cool.
So beautiful, man.
Yeah.
Like what you guys have done, like it's all white, beautiful fresh flooring, like beautiful natural timber doors and stuff. It just, whether you stay there or you use it as leverage to, step up and sell it, or you keep it as an investment, like it ticks every box now. It's crazy what you guys have done.
Yeah.
But it hasn't been done without some pain. I know a couple of times when it rained in the early days, the roof wasn't quite 100%.
Man, honestly, it was a little bit scary. It leaked like 4 times, this roof, hey? And it was just such a pain in the ass until one day I get up there with this roof tiler, and we literally spent like 4 to 6 hours picking up like hundreds of roof tiles, looking under and trying to find the leak. And obviously, we've just gone through those crazy rains and floods up here in southeast Queensland, and fortunately, we must have solved the issue.
Sweet, man. So you bought 2 of the worst houses on the best streets that are going to become the best houses in the future, and then you've also bought your own renovator, gone through a whole lot of cool stuff to make it beautiful, and then all of a sudden, you've decided to go for one more. What happened? What happened there?
It's a funny story, that fourth property. Like I wasn't anticipating to purchase a fourth investment property, but I talked to my mortgage broker and fortunately found myself in a little bit of a better situation than we anticipated, with a little capital growth from the portfolio. And I just wanted to diversify a little bit further as well. We just identified this part of Brisbane that we hadn't been looking at to date, but after running through the suburb data and analysing the market, I'm just like, I really want to get a property down there. So I talked to my mortgage broker, and fortunately we were in a position to finance another purchase, and just got stuck in and purchased that extra one, because after, changing my long-term strategy from wanting to get about $100,000 worth of passive income to trying to get $150,000 worth of net passive income, I needed an extra property in the portfolio to get me over that line. So I saw where this particular market was. It seemed like the true bottom over the last decade, and looks like it was coming into a nice 10-year run down there. So because I could, I did. So I guess that one was a little bit greedy, in all honesty.
Honestly, bro, don't see it as greed. Like, I know where you're coming from, which is wanting to help other people. I know that we're going to do a whole lot of stuff in the charity world in the future. We're already starting to do that now. I know that you looked into the future and went, well, with my 2 houses plus my own, I could have about $100,000 a year of income. But seeing me with the 3 kids, and now they're at school and daycare and stuff, and it's a bit more expensive, you went, maybe 150 would better suit me. So like, I know because of the way that we grew up, and because, we had a really good upbringing, but we've had to sort of figure this out on our own. Sometimes like that, I've gone further than I thought I could, and all of those old stories come back. But I think it's the opposite, man. I honestly feel like you're doing this from the best place, and the world's benefiting with these sorts of videos because of it.
Yeah, that's 100% true, because, now what that is going to enable me is to be really financially set up at a very young age. And, I'm not the kind of guy that's looking to be financially free to do nothing. I'm looking to be financially free to have choices, but to then just give my time back at a much higher level, start doing the charity events, start helping less fortunate people.
So fast forwarding to today, you've got 4 properties. Like, what do the next 5, 10, 15 years look like for you now that you've built that foundation for financial freedom in the future?
Yeah, well, a lot's changed over the last 5 years, naturally. my confidence has grown, my net position has improved. I've obviously proposed to Tay. We're getting married at the end of the year now. We'll be starting a family in the not too distant future as well. So all of these things are really exciting. And with that, there's been a lot of thought as to how this is all going to unfold moving forward. So now we've got the 4 properties. The intention is to start adding more value to the portfolio, because I bought the worst house on the best street for all 4 properties. I now need to go back and add some value to the property. So I started with my home, doing a bit of a renovation. That's an ongoing saga. And then next step for me is actually to knock down, rebuild the second property I purchased in Brisbane. I'm going to turn that into the best house on the best street. You know, that's the sort of idea there. Then I'll go back to the first property that I bought and do the same thing there. So then I'll have 2 brand new properties, 1 freshly renovated property. I'm going to get some great depreciation benefits from that. I'm going to get some great cash flow from that. Hopefully I generate some good capital growth from that as well. And then I'm just going to move into a consolidation phase. My intention in about 15 years time is to accumulate like the actual dream home, because knowing where I was 5 years ago and where I am today, you know, the property that I'm in right now is my dream home based on where I was 5 years ago. But fast forward another 5 years from now, and I feel as though with some more growth, with a few little kidlets running around, I think I might want to upgrade. And that's the intention. So what I would love to do over 15 years is pay off the debt on the 4 investment properties plus my own home, the dream home, and then live off the rental income. But I want to just continue investing for the rest of my life. I love it. You know, I love identifying markets. I love figuring out timing, and I love, you know, taking advantage of that as well. But mostly now that I've set up my foundations and I've set up my portfolio, it's more about giving back, you know, giving back what I've learned over the last 5 years, giving back what I've done over the last 5 years, and trying to help other people find the motivation that I found, find the confidence that I found through the research, through the conversations, through the tough decisions and the sacrifice, to set themselves up, because I can see clearly how my future is going to look now with everything that I've done. And it's a pretty awesome future. You know, I'm going to be able to send my kids to good schools. I'm going to be able to have more time to spend with them growing up. I'm going to be able to take them on holidays. I'm going to be able to help them get financially set up longer term. And I want to be able to give that to other families as well. So my intention moving forward is really just to, you know, give back as much as I possibly can, and see how far we can take it.
I love that, man. Like, it's so inspiring what you've done. Like, I'm so grateful to get to do this stuff with you. And I love that we're both coming from that place where it's like, we've learned some lessons, some of them the easy way, some of them the hard way, but from both completely starting from scratch. You know, you do build confidence slowly. Like, you know, success in this one area of your life turns into, okay, I'm going to look after my relationships a bit better. I'm going to catch up with friends more often. I'm going to train a bit more often. I'm going to spend a bit more time with the kids. And what's insane, bro, is you're 29. You know, 15 years from now, you're going to be 44. Most of the people we work with are just getting started at 44. So it's incredible what this can do for you guys. Like, honestly, if Simon and I can figure it out, you can definitely figure it out. We're no smarter, better, or any different than anybody else. We just know that we want to be financially free. We chose property as the way to get there. And then we're slowly working our plan towards our future position and enjoying the present moment. But for those of you out there seriously considering doing this, please jump over to our website, www.pumpedonproperty.com, where we can talk about, in a free strategy session, where you are today, where you'd like to be longer term. We can educate you on the market we love, which is Southeast Queensland, particularly Brizzy and the sunny coast. And then you can take that, you can run with it on your own. Maybe you can become one of the small number of people that we take on each month to help actually do this. But either way, we're so excited. I'm so grateful to be on this journey with you, man, and congrats on everything you've done.
Thank you.
Woo!
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
Getting cool, bro.
Yeah. Oh, sweaty. So sweaty. Oh, that's good. Look at that. So nice, eh? Oh.